Welcome to the fifth episode of the interview with Professor N.K.Ambasht, sir, India's foremost educational anthropologist. He was the former chairman of the National Institute of Open Schooling, and now it is a great privilege for me to take interview with Professor N.K.Ambasht, sir. Sir, I have a question for you. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And my question is, what is the role of educational anthropologists in nation building? And what anthropologists with specialization in education can offer to build our nation?
Well, you see, if you want to take the anthropologist, or for that matter, people who are trained in anthropology, to inform the policy of education, then they have perhaps very limited role. But if you look at their training and the asset that they build up with kind of establishing rapport with the people at large, of identifying and appreciating the local folkways, customs, praise, etc., etc., and then take this as an applied basic knowledge for devising programs for education with a specific need fulfillment of particular community, then it is a big asset. In the formal set of anthropology and social anthropology, which you teach in education, in your master's program, etc., etc., they are in a kind of a watertight compartment, and you study that, and then you go to university and start teaching them. So that's not the direct impact of anthropological background is not there in the educational policy information, policy planning, or how people learn. So you have extrapolate those skills that you have acquired during your training as an anthropologist, and then apply it to the situations, ground situations in the field of education. That perhaps is the basic asset that a social anthropologist has. So if you are into the policy framing of education, then you certainly take advantage of your background of working with the people, understanding their psyche, and understanding their specific needs, and tailor educational programs to satisfy those needs and make it more acceptable to the community at large. So this is the basic, I would say, skill that an anthropologist has, which perhaps working with the community in the way that an anthropologist does is not available to the normal education people who have done B.Ed, M.Ed, etc. So they tend to teach the way they have been taught. But to identify the specific nuances of the community where you are applying your educational process and tailor those processes to answer the specific needs of those particular communities is an added advantage. So I think the social anthropologist has got an extra capacity or extra skill to make education more socially relevant.
So, as an educational anthropologist, what are your contributions to the field of open schooling, sir, in India?
Well, open schooling, the basic idea, you see, I liberated the education from the tentacles of too much control. I am acknowledged as one who invented or developed on-demand examination system. And what I did was that I devised a method by which one can generate 2 into 10 raised power 2 into 10 raised power 16 or 18. No, 2 into 10 raised power 36 sets of question paper with 2% repeatability. So this was a kind of I would say, storehouse that I built with a set of 1,000 questions. Of course, I am not going into detail of that. We had it on a table, this short answer question, one sentence question, answer question, long answer question, simple question, middle questions with a slightly higher order, and then the much harder. Like, to give you an example, if I say the apple falls from the tree, what is the law that governs it? The answer is the gravitational force. Then I say a man jumps up in high jump, and then after reaching his maximum, he starts falling down. Why is he falling down? If the effort was to go up, the answer again is the gravitational force. So these are 2 different grades, levels of example. The third is the moon rotates around the earth. Again, why does it so? Again, the answer is the same, gravitational force. But the degree of difficulty goes on changing. So this kind of thing I developed in almost all subjects, 1,000 each. And with a computer programming, we said that we tried to generate question paper of 50 questions. So different sets, 2 into 10 raised power 36 sets could be generated with 2% repeatability. That is, one question could be repeated. So this kind of methodology, this kind of, I would say, invention, if you allow me to call it as invention, I made it. What was going in my mind was that, is education for man, or is man for education? And I thought that education is for man, and if it is for man, then he should have the right to call when and how he wants to be examined and evaluated and certified. Rather than some agency says that on a specific date at a specific time, you come to this place and you will be given a question paper and you have to answer it and then be it. Supposing for that, due to some exigency, I am not able to reach that place on time and date specified, then I lose my 1 year. So I challenged that control of the bodies, examining bodies. I said, who are you to tell me when I should get myself examined? It is I am paying fee. I am the one who is learning. So I must have the choice when I want to be examined. And so this movement caught on. And but as you know, the institutional resistance are there and many things happen. So it is partially being done, not fully. in terms of that, now the children have choice to say that I want to be examined on such and such date, and they will come to one particular specified place. They will be given different sets of question papers, and they will answer. So it is not one time shot, but it is anyway. So that is why I did so. I had training in social anthropology. I said that the institution is for the man, examination is for the man, learning is for the man. It is not man for the. So this kind of approach, this kind of thinking, thought process was only because of my training in anthropology and seeing that all the social institutions, all the paraphernalia that we set up, whether it is the state or whether it is the administration or whether it is the examination or education, it's for whom? It is for the society. It is a social organization, social institution. So who should be primer? Who should have primacy? It is the people who should have primacy. Democracy is based only on this principle that it is for the people, of the people, by the people. So if democracy is for the people, by the people, of the people, then why should not examination be for the people, of the people, by the people? So this was the thought that governed this kind of innovation, and people have adapted. Some people have adapted, some are still working on because of the intricacies of the problem is to develop a set of question paper with parallelability of learning and those kinds of things. The challenges are still there, but I attribute it only because of my mindset of deeply working with the people at grassroots level and viewing the social institutions, the institutions that we build, from the point of view that it is for facilitating the people, not for obstructing or controlling them. So that democracy for the people, by the people, of the people should also apply for the Central Board of Secondary Education or any board of education, that they are for the student, by the student, for the student. Why should a student be subjected to this kind of thing? Why can't I take my examination today if I am prepared? And the analogy that I built was, I started because when I saw this newspapers after the examination, I found that the incidence of suicides among the young boys was very great. And this set me thinking, why is it so? Why is that young, bloody, blooming child is forced to take his or her own life? And I said that, well, the culprit is the examination system. Why can't this child have more than one chance to improve and call the shots that, okay, I am satisfied now, you give me certificate. If suppose I secure 90% marks in a subject and I am not satisfied, I want 100%. Why should board say that you have already passed, you can't take the examination again? Similarly, if I have got 30% marks and I want to repeat it until I am satisfied, not the board is satisfied. If I am satisfied at 43%, fine. If I am satisfied at 99%, fine. I have the choice. I will call the shot when I want to stop my evaluation. The parallelism is with the pathological tests. You go for test, you get your blood examined, you say, oh, all right, I have my sugar high. I will take some medication, come back again, see it. And until I find that my sugar level is all right, then I say, okay, I'm all right. Similar should be the examination. So this was my plea. And I attribute entire this thought process, the mindset with which I began and which I conducted was because of my working with people, the empathy that I built with the community through my anthropological field.
Wow, that you attribute this way of conducting the exams for the students has drastically reduced the incidence of suicides, students' suicides. Do you believe that the system that you invented, the system that you prescribed for the student to have a freedom when he is ready to take the exam, and then he can take that kind of freedom when it is given to student, that will decrease the incidence of a student committing suicides?
In the National Institute of Open Schooling, it is happening. A child can say when he is satisfied and when he wants to have his mark sheet. And the only problem is not that they have not been able to establish centers in remote villages where you can go and take the examination of today I will take English in this. So they have their regional centers where they notify that during this period, every two months there is an examination. So you just fill up online that I want to take this examination. You go there, you get every child gets a different set of questions. He answers and then he is evaluated. And then when he is satisfied, he says, "Okay, I want my certificate." And so this is happening with the open schooling. But the threat, other than educational and social implication, is if this happens, what will this set of examiners do? What will the boards of secondary education do? Their own existence is at a what you call at a stake. So there is a inertia and resistance. Inertia I am using. That inertia is there, but it is now being gradually being acknowledged, and with the online examination system, this is going to be the future education, future examination system. Because online you are already allowing open book, right?
Yes.
You are not there going seeing that whether the child has got a book with him or not, is there any assistance or not. So this has to come. This has to come in the sense that you cannot have a textbook which says gravitational, every kind of variation combination that I have spoken to you. At say at class 10th level, we are not talking about a space, gravitation in the space, or when you send a projectile out which goes out in the space, it is not being influenced by Earth's gravitation. So this is again same Newton's principle and other things. So this kind of variations in the level of understanding and analytical skill of the child will come at play when you have an online examination and other things. How you analyze a problem and how you apply it. So this becomes a kind of challenge for question framers and examiners. So they are saying the potential. I mean, at the policy level, it has been sort of without saying so, is being considered that how we can, and people are working on this. I am sure that CBSE, I am told by CBSE that they are also looking at the possibility of adapting the proposition that I made. It's now about 18 years since I started and doing, I implemented it and I demonstrated it with the then education minister at different places, the governors. They themselves operated and generated multiple sets of question paper, each question paper having the same content area, but different sets of questions. And the governor of Uttar Pradesh at that time was bewildered, and he said, "Oh, what is this?" And then, at that time, education minister also, they inaugurated my centers. I had one in Rajasthan in a deep desert area. I had one in deep Chambal area where the birds are infested, that center. It was only a simple computer, and the paper would be generated there, and child will take examination, and the model answer of compatible model answer, the question paper and its answer is generated after 3 days, and then you match it and you find an award number. That was the kind of technology that was involved in that. So this was one was in urban slum of Delhi, one was in a tribal area, one was in a remote rural area. So 5 centers I experimented with this, and then came out with this. We tried it, and then. So why? Coming back to your anthropology part of it, empathy with the people whom you are working with, that empathy, that insight, understanding their problems, and then trying to solve that problem. And then, again, I would say this kind of field level orientation, tribal area, urban area, slum area, remote rural area. One was in a deep desert area and some barren areas. So, what are their problems? Empathizing with their problems, understanding their problems, and then bringing it on the table of our experimental table and working out the modalities, and then try out again and then modify. So this is the I think that because the people who got associated with me, I first ensured that, well, you go and live with the people and see how they live and how they react to a certain kind of new input. So the receptivity from the people of any innovation, there are 3 stages of receptivity. First is the rejection. Anything new thing, any new thing that you go, oh, it's okay. You just reject it. The second stage is compromise. And the third stage is acceptance. So this is innovation that I made is reaching this stage of innovation. First it was people started laughing at me, oh, anytime examination, anywhere, what is this? What is the sanctity of question paper? It will get leaked out without understanding that there is no 2 question paper which are same. They are all similar, but they are testing the area that you are not a specific question, but you are covering topic with different questions. Same topic, same answer, same everything. But the question is framed in a different way. So rejection was there. Then compromise. At the compromise stage, I retired. Now it is getting acceptance stage.
That's excellent. Wonderful, sir. So what are the other contributions that you can think of that you made to the education policy in India?
Well, I am also considered to be a person in the area of adult education. And perhaps it may not be impertinent on my part to tell you that I am a Nehru Literacy Awardee in the year 2003. So in adult education, the evolution of adult education from social education, then adult education, adult literacy, farmers literacy, improving the quality of farming, and then now it has come to lifelong education. So that has been the area, again, inspired by training in social anthropology, because I saw the traditional institutions as an institution in the tribal communities for preparing children for adulthood and adult role functions. Like Parha Panchayat. In Parha Panchayat, the Dhangar, the Dhumkur, the Mahato, they are all trained to perform that their role in adult life by informal methods. Minus literacy, again I am saying minus literacy, they have been trained to be a useful, productive citizen in their own community, in their own society. Now, transpose that situation to modern situation of the developing India, and you find that, well, literacy is a skill which is necessary to transmit the idea, they transmit the role and function by remote processes, by writing, by speaking radio. This is a community radio sets were established in 1955-56. It was given to block panchayats where people would come and listen to the Unnat Bij, Unnat Khad, right? So, but it was pre-tuned, it could not be tuned to Bharati at that time. It was only tuned to receive the input, because there was likelihood that people would change the tuning and start listening to song and music rather than farmers' literacy program. So that kind of the processes evolved. Working with community is a great asset of all adult education programs, all adult education programs. So literacy was seen in reading the encoding, that is writing. Encoding, you encode your voice or your words or your sentence or your communication through a process of encoding by symbols. Those symbols could be Roman, it could be Tamil, it could be Telugu, it could be Hindi, Devanagari, it could be Marathi, Gujarati, whatever. So symbols are different, which to which you assign certain kind of sound. And through combination of those symbols, you make a meaningful word to communicate. So this is the basic language composition. And in adult education, we try to communicate, try to educate them how to decipher this printed word or symbol in their own in the script that it is written, preferably their own mother tongue or their own language of the state language. Now, in the changing society and far-reaching expanse, the writing is becoming a little bit more, it is changing in composition. The first at that time, we used to hold pen and started with straight line and making curves to make a letter and a combination of letter into words articulated by recognizing those shapes and giving a voice to that, and then this sentence, the word, meaningful word would come, and the sentence could be derived. Now, holding a pen is becoming, earlier we used to give them pen and ask them to hold it like this, and then make curves and straight lines. Now, with the advent of this e-communication, e-learning, this is changing. Now you have to tap. The letter is already there on the keyboard. So you are not holding the pen, you are simply tapping it. And by tapping, you see on the screen that what you wanted to make by curve, by hand movement, is a finger tapping. So the component of adult education is seeing a vast change because the medium of communication through handwritten material to voice and type material. So this is one aspect of it. The other aspect is it is no more a one-time effort. It is a lifelong learning. Every time it is evolving. Not only the content is expanding, but also supposing for a while that I, having retired and having done my job and all that, but still I need to update myself, and even for pursuing my hobbies. So I want to, somebody wants to make a good ikebana, good bouquet. You are supposing for a while you retire and you want to help community, help people, the community, etc. So the needs and functions are changing. So concept of lifelong education. Education is no more one-shot affair. It continues until the death. So and the gamut goes on changing. For example, you want to have, after having retired, you have an inclination of learning singing. So you start practicing harmonium and other things. This is also a component of lifelong education. So the expanse of adult education has increased from reading and writing to pursuit of vocation, pursuit of your excellence, pursuit of your inclination, likes. So it has become the expense of adult education is no more the basic skill of reading and writing and making you read print material. It is expanded. So adult education is seeing a change. And you may have noticed that I am Professor Emeritus of Adult Education in International Institute of Adult and Lifelong Education. So that is also an area, and I am told, well, I haven't received any notification, but I am told that Government of India is considering me to chair the group on adult education. So it's just I heard. I am not sure. I should say, you kindly edit it if you want to save me from making it public. But I know that nobody is bothered to.
Thank you, sir. Regarding this, the anthropologist's involvement with the education, and what are the trends in India? You
What
see,
are these?
trends.
Trend.
The anthropologist's attitude towards education as a specialization. What are the anthropologists are showing increasing interest, or or engagement with the education, or what is your perception of the past and present situation of anthropology versus education?
I am pained to notice and to give vent to my frustration with regard to anthropology people not venturing into applied anthropology in areas other than the traditional ones. I know some people have done some work after me on in anthropology, education, etc. But they confine themselves to the jobs in the university teaching anthropology. So they never came out to apply their skills and knowledge to policy framing or policy informing the policy. There is no institution like Anthropological Survey of India or Indian Statistical Institute. There is no such institution for anthropology in the field of applied sciences, applied social sciences, I would say. And there is no such body as an anthropologist for education. I would suggest that if you can somehow manage 4 or 5 people in your group who would concentrate on education, giving a foundational basis to anthropology of education. That is research input in terms of what are the societal needs with regard to education, and how education can be tailor-made to answer their questions, things like that. So, because I don't see anyone anthropologist involved. Either I'm not informed, I am ignorant, but I hardly see any anthropologist involved in the process of education. There are anthropologists, people who have qualified for IAS, scores of them every year. They opt for anthropology, they get high marks in anthropology. I also know the kind of people, the examiners and paper setters, because I was paper setter examiner for 20 long years of UPSC, IAS, and Indian Forest Service, etc., of general studies. But I also know many anthropologists like Vidyarthi, like A.B. Saran, like they were paper setter examiners. And since we were contemporaries, they would discuss that if I give a little, if I be a little liberal to anthropologist, then he will be in the IAS, and then our discipline will grow with the sympathetic attitude, or that he will be better equipped to handle with dealing with people in the grassroots level. So this is the advantage of anthropology, particularly social anthropology, as a science, to get applied in the administration. This is one basic thing. Sociology, social anthropology, these are the disciplines which help you to develop an empathetic attitude towards the people who you are supposed to be serving. But I am not aware, I may be totally ignorant, but I am not aware of anthropologists being involved in education planning, educational administration. There is a university, National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration. There was one Sujata, Kalimiti Sujata, who started her PhD work under me, but then she shifted to some other side. She was there and tribal education. After her retirement, there is none. So she wanted to bring in anthropology in educational administration. But that is one small drop in the whole big cauldron. So I think there is a need for us to rethink about it, and encourage people to go into education and anthropology together.
Sir, what are the troubling gaps that you notice in Indian anthropology?
Well, we are becoming too academic and less applied. In one sentence, I would say applied anthropology is being given a short shrift. People are working, people are getting their PhDs, they are not being absorbed or going into the services that enables them to apply their skills. They go to a teaching. So transmission of what they have, and that is why you see anthropology, you have been lamenting that there are less scope for anthropology students, because they are all too archaic academicians. The teachers themselves are archaic academicians. They are not using fieldwork as extensively as it should be. They are also not taking advantage of the emerging sociological problems, socio-anthropological problems that emanate at the ground level with policy implementation. Because you see, I'll give you a small example. My colleague and friend, Professor V.S. Upadhyay, who died when he was head of anthropology department in University of Ranchi. He was doing PhD along with me, and his area was tribal rehabilitation. So we being together as a research scholars, we tried to go together to some field work, and he would work on rehabilitation, I would work on education. There was a tribal rehabilitation program in the then Bihar. Now it is Chota Nagpur in Bihar. I mean Jharkhand and Bihar. So in Chatra block, the Birhors who lived in their kunbas made of leaves, about 2.5 feet height, about 5 feet in circumferences, a conical kind of thing with a small opening. You just slide into this and sleep. The uniqueness of this kunba was that not a drop of water during the rain would seep into the. Now they were rehabilitated. They were rehabilitated. A long line of rooms were built with tiles and bamboo and tiles as the roof. And they were given one goat, and they all were brought to a place. 30 such hutments were made. And as soon as the rains came, it was, the roof was leaking somewhere. And all of them went away back deep into the jungles, because we had not studied their habitation and their uniqueness in terms of their living condition. They lived in Kumbha, you just shifted them to a brick wall with a door and a latch, but a leaking roof, just an unimaginable problem. So the rehabilitation policy that was at that time, I am not aware of the present time, rehabilitation policy of that time did not take into cognizance these specific niceties, did not study their housing pattern, did not see that in spite of being a 2.5 feet height and 4 feet in circumference, in diameter, that cone made only of leaf, but leaf like this, one over the other one over this. So the water will not seep into that. If you see, I had a monograph developed on Birhor. There the photographs are there. My book on tribal education also, the cover is that of Birhor. So what I am trying to say is that the basic understanding or the informed policy making, if some people who had studied Birhor pattern of mind would not have advised the government to build that kind of rehabilitation colony as they built, giving no importance to leaking roof. They just put it in tiles there, and in the tiles, during the rainy season, it leaks. And it is common happening in the rural areas of India that during the day, even in my younger days when I was living in a village like at night, it rained dripping on our beds, and we would put a katora or put a bowl there so that the water doesn't drip on the bed. But they couldn't, they would not have it. That was not in their culture. That was not in their architecture, the hut building. So this kind of understanding and planning of any scheme that is intended for them, that it has to be in consonance with their values that they prize so much. So if that had been there, the scheme would not have. But I had great hopes with the IAS people who would have been anthropology student and competed in IAS through that to understand their way of life and design a rehabilitation scheme improved with infrastructure, but basically not hurting their, I would say, values.
Sir, thank you. How do you see the present situation of anthropology in India? Some say that anthropology in India is on the deathpan, whereas some others say that the anthropology is a much sought after subject for civil services aspirants. And some others say that anthropology is very much needed for organizations, public sector, private sector, and the third sector, and fourth estate, press, civil society. And what is your understanding, and how do you see it, the present situation of India, the anthropology in India?
You see, my idea is that the anthropology has to reinvent itself from being an academic subject to essentially an applied science for answering the needs of developing India, and particularly rural India. So the problems that arise with again urbanization and the process of mix of cultures, the acculturative process, these are some of the problems that should inform the policy making. So the applied anthropology should have a better, greater stress in our teaching learning process. And there the problem of revisiting the curricula of masters in anthropology, etc., is needed. The greater stress on applied anthropology, the social anthropology, the anthropology in administration, the anthropology of administration, the development anthropology. I'm not saying developing anthropology, I'm saying development anthropology. The anthropology is not only the society of the tribal people. When extended, it applies as well as to, there is a great juxtaposition of sociology and anthropology at the applied level. So the methodology of working with people, empathy is the key word. Developing empathy in planning and administration. So these things are some of the things that I don't know, because I am not teaching in any university, but if they have not worked on that and introduced it in their curriculum, master's degree, how to build empathy, how to empathize with people, how to understand their problem from their own perspective, right? So if you are endowed with those skills, then you will be in a better position to administer, to tailor your programs, development programs that you are thinking about. The problem of, now take an example, the bonded labor in the agriculture. I studied this among the Santals, that they would borrow, say, 10 monds. Monds means 40 kgs, 37 kg. Monds of paddy at the rate of 50% interest. So if you take a loan of 1 mond, next year you have to give 1 mond plus half a mond as interest. So, and it went on spiraling, and that led to bonded labor. That bonded labor, the child is given to work for free in the fields of the lender. Now these were some of the problems at that time. Now, how study of this problem as a problem of as an anthropological study should be built into development program of now taking loan from bank. Easy loan, bank loan. The various programs of the present day government, which is making community service centers as the nodal point to have various digital solutions to various problems, getting loan, getting into your bank account, the government subsidy, etc., etc. So this is obviating the Mahajan money lender, right? So the money lender, the shackles of the money lender is being reduced. Now my study in 1967 on this is no more relevant in the present one. So that study, the developmental needs of tribal people, to be precise, that was the name of the study, in which agricultural needs and social needs and social education needs and economic needs and educational needs, all were there. Among the Garo, the matrilineal society, and among the Santals, the settled agriculture. One was the shifting cultivator, the other was a settled agriculture. So these two were the samples of my study, and I made a study on that. So what I am trying to say is that these studies must find a place, must get involved, must get not informed, must get need to be studied before any plan or developmental plan is formulated. So this kind of applied anthropology needs greater strength in order to be useful to government planning, government implementation, and making it relevant to social and tribal development.
That's wonderful. Thank you, sir. You mean a master's degree in applied anthropology is suggested to fix the present situation of anthropology in India. That is what I noticed. Is that the thing, sir? Because more applied aspects of anthropology, that's what you are suggesting to fix the problem of the present situation of anthropology in India, right?
I think so. Yeah, I am not decrying that the other aspect, academic aspect, should be at a discount. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you asked me the question, the employment, the employment potential of the anthropology graduates. And in that context, I made how they can make themselves relevant to various developmental programs of the government. So the stereotyped areas of employment would be mostly the teachers, the anthropology graduate becoming teachers of anthropology. That is the most obvious one. And then Anthropological Survey of India is another. Then there can be some areas like Registrar General's Office, census operations that you call. So these were some of the areas that. But you see, Planning Commission now Niti Aayog, they have got a great potential of using the anthropology graduates for work. National Sample Survey Organization, they have the survey techniques of various aspects. So the training in anthropology of working with the people can come in handy for these kinds of organizations. These are government organizations. But there are very many NGOs. They have been working intensely with the people at large. I was the trustee of two Sarvodaya movements in Bodh Gaya and one in Pitari. In both were Sarvodaya organization working among one was working among the Musars of Bodh Gaya, the Naxalite belt. The other was working among the Santals of Chaibasa. So these are these were the NGOs working in these areas, although not very paying, but professionally very satisfying. That you live among them, you work with them, and incidentally, I must tell you the one that I was talking about near Jamshedpur, the Chaibasa. Well, there I had this on-demand examination system. The tribal children came and they generated papers. They gave the examination of class 5. They got their marks and everything. That was one center, tribal center. So it was just because it came to my mind. Just out of context here, but you can relate it from there. So these are some of the areas, some places where one can find potential for employment or self-employment even, starting NGOs, working for the community, that kind of altruistic, I would say, attitude one can develop.
Sir, you said education is for people, education is of people, education is by people. So that definition is really impressive, very impressive. And what do you, in that context, I have a question for you, sir. Anthropology is the study of people. It is an empirical and holistic study of people and study by people, and full stop. So that is the present situation. But if anthropology is the study for people, that will make a huge difference. And if that missing component is not included, what will happen to the future of anthropology? Not only in India, even elsewhere in the
Can
world.
you be a little louder, please? Can you be a little louder? I couldn't hear you properly.
Anthropology is the empirical and holistic study of people and by people in the past and in the present. And but the people have the past and the present and future components in their from their birth to death life. So life has a in total, it has three components: past, present, and future. But anthropology is the empirical and holistic study of people and by people. Period. But if anthropology is not for people, and what is the use of anthropology? If that for component is missing in anthropology as a discipline, if anthropologists are not equipped to deal with the future of people and the problems of the people, and if they are not equipped to address the human problems, what for the study of humans and by humans actually matters?
Well, this proposition, anthropology for the people, it is manifest in applied anthropology that I have been talking about for the last 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes. That how you use your skill as a trained anthropologist and as a trained person, not only in the science of man, as a social being, how to take that that group of people from wherever they are to where they ought to be. I'm not they should be, they ought to be. So the difference is that how you the takeoff. If the takeoff is sudden and jolt, many people may fall down from the wagon. So you have to see how to start, where to start, how to take it up. Take without disturbing them, without a hoe being a hoe, without making a hoe into a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim or a this. Let him have his integrity. And in my first part, I talked about integration, social, and isolation and assimilation. These three, and in my first lecture, I talked about that. So integrating them in the whole, in the big canvas of India. You are a Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Dalit, you are a Brahmin, you are a this, you are a Santal, you are a Munda, you are a Horaun, you are a Toda, you are a this, and yet you are an Indian. So this concept of integration and taking them, improving their way of life, improving their standard of life, improving their psyche without changing their identity. And this is very important. Without changing their identity is very important. That is where anthropology should use its techniques, its methods, its training to help society grow. Now, you have to find ways and means how to get into those positions where you can influence the factors that can make change, that can make social change without disturbing the identity pattern. So what are the indicators of change? One is the change of changing the worldview, right? So their education is important. The other parameter would be changing their economic status, where economic policies like sabka vikas, sabka whatever it is, just sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka everything for everyone. Now this sabka, the word sabka is the word of integration. Integration, taking together. And what does anthropology, where does the cog of anthropology fit into this whole entire gamut, is providing the input in terms of society, social structure of various tribal communities in this whole entire picture, so that they can be integrated into the sabta vikas, sabta praya, development, etc. So, what is there? What is there so unique, where which would give you the least resistance for development? So this kind of understanding the anthropology needs to create if it has not created so far. It is creating. I say it is creating, but apart from the trained anthropologists being placed in the competitive IAS, etc., by virtue of their competing in the service, very little is being seen, manifest. I may be wrong because I am in education. I have not seen many people, many anthropologists coming in the field of education. So maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that they should have a place. MSc Anthropology and B.Ed and M.Ed, you hardly find many. So I have I would love to see people from anthropology, sociology coming into the field of implementation of social programs or informing program formulation. More people of these disciplines coming to Niti Aayog, coming to various departments, welfare departments. Now, who mans welfare department of the government of India or different state governments? They are all civil servants. They may not have been, mostly they are not trained in any of these social sciences which concerns itself with the social development of social development of people. So, there is a scope, there is need for rethinking. Redrawing, if you redraw your curriculum, MA curriculum, anthropology, applied anthropology, how the trained anthropology can make a change in the society that one is studying. What could be the new input? For example, I suspect that any of the anthropology course in any university has a unit on Jan Dhan Yojana. Do we have it? If I had in my social anthropology course had a unit, a paper on Jan Dhan Yojana. So how banking, how bank access, how the money that is being given by the government to farmers, which may be anthropologists, they may be tribals, sorry, it may be tribals. So how to use that? How to get that? That could have been one of the units or one of the papers in social anthropology in universities. So when an anthropologist goes, after having obtained master's degree, goes to the field, he knows how to working with people, how to operate Jan Dhan Yojana, how to operate, have a health for all. Huh? So these are some of the changes that need to be incorporated into the curriculum or syllabus. Unfortunately, we are the universities have not qualified that for 10 years. Much water has flowed down the river since then. So contemporary developments and how these developments are geared towards the tribal or the traditional societies to improve their lot, if that was the part of our syllabus, we would have been better equipped to go into the field and educate the people, take them along with us in the development path. And that way, our role as a social anthropologist, oblique social activist. Social activist not in that sense, the way we are using. Social activist as a promoter of social development, not as a protester. You see, social activist is termed as one who prepares people to protest. But I am using it, and I reiterate, social activist who accelerates the social development by making use of available resources, for development of the society.
Excellent. So that's wonderful, sir. Where anthropology for humans, the studying humans by humans with an intention to improve the human condition, to mitigate the risk, and to help facilitate the collective well-being and common good. So those are the things that are coming out from your talk. So that's wonderful. Thank you, sir, for the leads, for the sustainability of the discipline of anthropology and for the flourishment of human societies, how anthropology can be useful and instrumental in that process of development and informed policy formulation. Thank you, sir. The other question is, you told the virtue of empathy, you repeatedly mentioned that anthropologists should cultivate the virtue of empathy, and also the in the formation of the worldview, and what humans are capable of. Humans are capable of becoming criminals. Humans are capable of becoming virtuous and noble people. So in this future capability, what humans can become or capable of becoming. So that aspect, if anthropological wisdom and understanding and anthropological skills and training can really assist people in acquiring the positive attitudes and the positive worldview formation, I think that must be the task of anthropology, because anthropology is the study of people and study by people. Study for what? Study for what? Getting employment in the universities, teaching, or study for solving the human problems to improve their condition. So to solve the problems, to help people, we should help people to overcome their negative attitudes and change their negative attitudes and neutral attitudes and acquire the positive attitudes. The mindset, working with the mindset of the people, because negative attitudes break the life and positive attitudes builds the life. Negative attitudes breaks the life and positive attitudes breaks the life, whereas neutral attitudes are also dangerous for human survival. So as an anthropologist who are trained in studying humans and how they are helpful in helping the people in acquiring the positive attitudes, in altering the negative attitudes, and in changing their neutral attitudes in order to facilitate the required worldview formation. So that is my question, sir.
Oh, was it a question?
Yeah, how anthropologists, yes.
Yeah, you see, basically, I think for any developmental anthropologist or the anthropologist, social anthropologist, the idea is to go into the psyche of the subjects whom you or I are studying. Now, suppose, for example, I was studying Garos, and I found it very novel in the sense that they were matrilineal society. The mother was the chief of the household. The father was just like after marriage, he has moved out of his own home and come to wife's home and works in the field. As a secondary person, so he is not bothered about the economy of the family. What he is doing is he is working in the field and getting his meals. I interviewed some of them and they said, well, it is my wife's property. The money that I earn through this agriculture or whatever I am doing, it goes to her and there's a house and it is her duty to feed me. That's all that I get, and the clothes and the food. I don't own this property. I don't do. Now this was in stark contrast to what we obtain in our society, which is patrilineal. The father is the head of the family. He is the bread earner. He brings the money. And wife is there to manage house. This is the kind of thing. So now the empathy is that if you are an anthropologist and you understand that there are different societies and you have to understand them and take them from there, from wherever they are, to improving their standard of life, without disturbing their set principles or set values. So this kind of understanding is necessary and appreciated. This needs to be appreciated. But what happens with most of us is that we find it, oh, how come Mr. Gadde married a lady some Khasi lady, and he adopted her name. Now he is no more Mr. Gadde. He is Mr. Khangsi. So this is a kind of a culture shock to patrilineal societies, and now this forms some kind of a mindset or some kind of prejudice, if you want to say, to term it that way, that affects my whole entire interaction or developmental process, or a psyche that I develop. Oh, these are the people who are matriarchal people, so they are feminist, some kind of that. So we start attaching values to these kinds of differences. If I am an anthropologist, then I would be equipped with that kind of skill to accept the social practices, social values of different societies on their own grounds, on their own merit. Merit being the yardstick of that particular society, not my yardstick of my society to which I belong. That is what we did. When he came, he married a Gond lady, he became a Gond, and then he wrote Muria and their Ghotul. So that in order to empathize, not sympathize, empathize with him. So did Margaret meet there on Samoa. So they went there, they lived there, they adopted their way of life, they tried to understand the way they think, and then take a view on whatever social happenings or social events were taking place, and did not attach any value, good, bad, or bitter, this kind of thing. They took it as they. So this is a special attribute, and that is why the participant observation, again, I'm going back to that, is of great importance. So this can be adapted to developmental models today in the present day society. These models can be adapted, and participant observation being a part of that society, living the way they live, understanding them from their own perspective and their own aspirations. That is the kind of attribute that we need to develop. If I don't know whether I have answered your question or not, but I think that is a kind of an important
the question of neutrality, the question of relativism, the question of neutrality. These are the two things we need to address, because the neutrality, we anthropologists, we study people, we describe and explain what people do and why they do. Our job is done. We are not to maintain any the intention to improve their life or to disturb their culture, kind of thing. So we are here to only study and understand and write ethnography and reports, and our job is done. It is the job of the policy makers, it is the job of the government, and it is the job of the police to maintain the law and order, to maintain the to deliver the good governance and all these things. And then if anthropology's job is to only understand, describe and explain what they do, why they do, the way they do, and if they don't prescribe what they can become, what are the for example, sir, Professor Ambasht, for example, anthropology of nutrition or nutritional anthropologist If he approaches the community and studies the community, finally his report says these are the vitamins deficiency, these are the vitamins missing in their in their intake of food. These are the minerals missing in their intake of food. So these are the diseases they suffer. So that understanding can inform the policy. But what are the needed action to be taken by the community and by the government and by the anthropologists, how to bring co-orchestrate all this, the government and community and the policy makers, facilitate to improve the health of that particular community. So,
well, the first part of your question, if you keep anthropology as a subject of study and don't concern yourself to social use, then of course you can study Sanskrit, you can study Latin, you can study French and use it for yourself, fine. But these are social sciences. Anthropology is a social science, and it has got its relevance for social society as such. And therefore the term applied anthropology. If you want to be a purist anthropologist, yes, please do, go ahead, no problem. Go ahead. You be a physical anthropology, study Homo erectus, whatever it is, it's just Homo sapiens and this, fine. You do it, it is for a study for academic interest. But if you are trying to use anthropology for as a tool for better understanding of the society and taking them along a certain course for development, then that is why social anthropology, abstract and social applied anthropology for development. So what I have been talking about largely is about applied anthropology, how you apply it and how you take it. For example, now coming to nutrition part that you made as an example, if I were the anthropologist studying this problem, I would have taken their staple food, whatever they are eating, and done the analysis of, got analysis done with regard to nutrients. So what are the nutrients that are available in the current food materials that they are using? And what is the standard requirement with regard to development? And what are the minerals or salts that are deficient? Then this is one. This is which I called benchmark data. Then I would study the vegetation in and around and try to find out which of these vegetations is having those components which are deficient, which are not obtained, not obtaining that particular their food habits. Then if I find that, well, some of the local produce is there which can supplement it, then I would, in my input to the nutritionist, chalking out the program at the government level, say that introduce these materials which are available, locally available, into the system, and then go for the supplementary input. So my role would be into getting the things analyzed, getting the things, what are the nutrients already available, what are the nutrients that are deficient, where can find the deficient, and introduce it in the manner that is most socially acceptable. It may also be possible that some of the things are not there. Then you have to have some kind of a supplementary program. I remember, let me share with you what it is a very interesting thing. I was studying the developmental needs of tribal people. I went to Santal Pargana. I was the district magistrate asked the video of a block that I need to be taken to that block. And I was Gopi Kandar was the block. Gopi Kandar block, I was given accommodation in the IB. And then I went for fieldwork. Applied nutrition program was one of the areas that I was in. So I was taken to a village where there was a pond, pisciculture was being practiced, and there was also a poultry. And I was told that every expectant mother and the growing child was supposed to be given 1 egg per day and fish in their diet. And therefore the fish is being cultured here. Fish is being cultured here. But what happened was, the moment the video and I went to that place, they threw a net, took out big fishes, put it in the jeep of the video. All the eggs that were hatched that day were put in the bag of the jeep. It was not the expectant mother or the child that was getting it. It was the video who was being nourished of that applied nutrition program. So this is the kind of, and I reported this. In another block, I went, the Amrapana block. The doctor was known to me during his student days. I went to certain villages, inquired about health needs. The doctor is supposed to visit the villages, the primary health centers every day. And then I was told by when I interviewed people, they said the doctor charges 2 rupees for coming to the village. And I noted it down. In the late evening, in my IB in Dakshin Bangalore, where I was staying, the doctor came and he said, Nawal, my first name, Nawal, you are my friend. Yes, I am your friend. I know you. You know me since your student days. You were in medical college. I was in Patna University, but we met. He said, you are asking questions that I am charging fee, but I only take petrol charges because the block jeep is out of order and I am supposed to get the block jeep which is not made available. So I use my motorcycle, and this is the. So, I mean, you see, there is everything that that's not right in the sense that the empathy factor, empathy, not sympathy, empathy factor, identification with the people and feeling their problem as if it is your own problem, then that can help in many ways in developmental processes. And there I see that developing empathy is one of the byproducts of social anthropology. That you begin to understand them because you associate yourself with them and see the things in their way. So that is an attribute I feel is necessary for any development activity. It is not imposed. It is as if you make any program as if it is their own. This is the contribution that I see of a social anthropologist, because he is trained. You see, let me just, many people may not like it, but why is the developmental programs of the present Prime Minister is widely accepted and appreciated? Have you ever considered that this gentleman spent about 30 years living with the people, identifying himself with the people of different in different regions, and this, and understanding their problems, and developing a worldview, their worldview, and when he came to a position of deciding policies and the programs, then he is coming out with this Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas kind of slogan. It is a populist slogan, no doubt about it. But then why? Why not any other people who were in power could think of it? Because they did not identify, they did not do the field work. In our term of anthropology, field work is very important. This man has done field work for 20 years before becoming a policy developer or policy maker or a program. So this is the role. This is the kind of role that an anthropologist is endowed with. That if he has done field work, he is better equipped to develop policies, programs, and so that is a way I think it is.
Yes, sir. Particularly if we study the community, and is there a possibility to identify the list of positive attitudes, the list of negative attitudes of that particular community, particularly in the Indian culture at the national level, the corruption as the maybe from state to state and from north to south or south to north or east, the presence of corruption as a cultural trait in India, and if that is the if that is going to be multiplied or perpetuated, and what will be the future of the Indians? We are talking about development, but the cultural obstacle, the corruption as a cultural obstacle, corruption as a common practice from the class 4 to the first collar, white collar jobs, or from civil services to the agricultural level. So from at every level of human practice, if the culture of corruption is not going to be addressed, or if anthropologists, if they don't study this problem of corruption, which is all pervading, means every domain, every sector of the health sector, education sector, and development sector, or whatever the sector, it is penetrating. So it is in majority of the cases, it is accepted condition. It becomes the norm of the society. Even though we have anti-corruption bureau, SCB, and there is law and order, and there is constitutional institutions to curb corruption, but corruption, its presence is continuing. So because it is a part of the culture, it's an accepted practice to the majority. So people give bribes for their own convenience. People take bribes for their own accumulation of wealth. So in this kind of situation, if corruption, the attitude of corruption is a negative attitude, if we can brand it as a negative attitude, and if people do not change this attitude of corruption, then how to really address the development needs of the humans, particularly in our nation? India. So we anthropologists, the cultural relativism and the cultural neutrality, the stand of neutrality, we are neutral. We don't judge cultures. But here the corruption is, if we say something is corruption, and the definition, we should define corruption according to the Indian Penal Code or Indian the Constitution or Indian judiciary. What is corruption? We need to define. So that definition, if it is entirely strange from the definition of the culture of corruption. So in culture, corruption is accepted norm. Yeah, for the judiciary, it is not accepted. For law and order, even law and order, people who are responsible for law and order, also, if they are also corrupted to some percentage of population or the personnel, then where is the hope for the nation? So making India or building the nation, or nation building, and this is a huge problem, the corruption. And like that, there are many negative attitudes or attributes of culture and people. So in that process, where anthropology can stand, if it take the stand of neutrality, it is not our business to brand something is negative, something is positive. And then kya faida? What is the use? That's my question, sir.
Well, you have raised a question which is perhaps a little bit out of this, but then you see the skill of observing deviant behavior from standard response pattern to certain stimulus, certain accepted stimulus, the behavior response, etc., can be thought of in terms of corruption. The deviant behavior in terms that you are supposed to give certain kind of service, but you want something extra so that you expedite the matter, or so that you don't delay it or something like that. Now, this is not inside the purview of the social anthropology, or for that matter, it is a social malaise traversing throughout the country. It doesn't matter whether you are a Santhal or a Garo or a Srivastava or a Pandit, or corruption is a kind of a universal way of life. And if you go into this, its origin, you will find that the colonial rule perpetuated it. At that time, Dalis and gratification to the masters and British masters were taken as a for granted. So 200 years of that you are, if you are doing something, that you think that you are doing some favor to somebody, and for that you need to be compensated. So this attitude has built, and it has ingrained in our society, for that matter. So this, I think, was so pervasive that it seeped into almost every activity of life. And it was very hard to develop an attitude, negative attitude towards this kind of earning. Although there are laws, as you are seeing, many raids are happening at different people who have earned money by dubious means. I did a small survey when I was a postgraduate student in sociology. I did my own survey, private, just I asked one simple question to a variety of people. Question was, you are to marry your daughter and you have 4 options. Number 1, a university lecturer in the scale of 4 rupees, 400, 800. At that time, that was the scale. A BDO, block development officer, in the scale of 200, 400. A police inspector in the scale of rupees 150, 300. Whom would you marry? To whom you would marry your daughter? And the vast majority was police inspector, followed by BDO, and lecturer was the last. The reason, on the second question, the reason thereof was, upari kamai sabse zyada hai. The extra income outside the legitimate salary is maximum of the police inspector, then block development officer, and lecturer has no extra income. At that time, tuitions were not in vogue at that time, at least at the university stage. So, the social the societal view of value attachment was that upari kamai, or the extra income, or the what you call corrupt income, was a kind of a socially accepted norm, though not legally accepted. And it has come down from hundreds of years. So this does not justify bribery, or this does not justify extra income by way of gratification, etc. But the general perception of society was at that time that upari kamai is a secondary non-cognizable kind of income, which is partly legitimate, though not legally legitimate. Socially legitimate, but not legally legitimate. Now, with lot of effort and lot of rules and regulations and all acts and all those things are there on, but the element is so vast. So the 2 things that happened very recently, which are yet to show results in terms of less corruption. One is the digitized payments, where interface, human interface, is being reduced. So the kind of interface that all right, you have to get 2,000 rupees, give me 1,000, give me 500 rupees so that I can give you 2,000. And that fellow was saying, oh, okay, this 2,000 is coming. If I give 500 rupees, at least 1,500 I am getting. This kind of mindset, this was a psyche. With digitization, direct bank transfers, etc., this has changed. This is changing. So I would say that we are in a period of transition, whereas the laws, the enforcement directorates, the CBI and all those instruments are there. But technology is coming to the rescue of this kind of malaise. And it's a very long-term process to come back to normalcy. But yes, technology can certainly help in reducing this problem, if not completely obviating. But sociologically or anthropologically speaking, what kind of value we are attaching to this kind of income? Do we give? Do we decry a person? Do we debunk a person? Do we criticize a person whom the society knows that he is a corrupt man? His income is beyond his legitimate sources of income. Supposing for a while my neighbor or I, myself, if I am living beyond my means, that do people socially boycott me? The answer is no. So, social acceptance and legal acceptance, they are sometimes at variance. Social acceptance that you are a person, supposing you are a university professor and you buy a Mercedes or worth rupees 90 lakh or 1 crore. So, and I go there and say, oh, what a wonderful car you have bought. Wonderful, wow, wow, wow. So what kind of this interaction is there? I know that this fellow getting his salary, whatever he gets, he can't afford to buy a Mercedes Benz. But I go and praise him. So what kind of message am I giving to him? That okay, whatever you have done or whatever you are doing is legitimately right or is socially acceptable. So as a social scientist, we must also look at what kind of value we attach to such practices. Are we really, is there any social boycott of corrupt people? It has not. If at all, unless he is convicted. And well, there are people who have been convicted, who have been fined, who have been jailed, and when they came out, they are still having, they go to the clubs and they are accepted and this. So it's a value assignment to practices has to be looked into, and some kind of, I would say, what you call movement need to start for developing a negative attitude towards corruption. People call corruptions, but most of them, if given opportunity, would like. Take simple, you go to a market, right? And you buy something. And the price is written something. And the other fellow is charging a little more. Then you compromise, okay, fine. Who will go to other shop and buy? He is my neighborhood man. If he is taking 1 rupee extra, don't mind. I am a big man. I don't mind 1 rupee extra. So this kind of attitude is an attitudinal problem. I also see not only this was not only a social evil, it is social evil, no doubt about it. That's accepted. This needs to be corrected. But there are also attitudinal problem. What is my attitude towards corruption? That if I am ready to give 5 rupees extra to a person for getting my work done, am I not equally responsible? Why should I give? I will not give. Let me suffer. This attitude, if I say, let me suffer, so it happens in everyday life. It happens every day in everyday life. So one has to, not only one, it needs the consensus at home.
So yeah, anthropology has many things to, like this kind of problem studies, studying the issues, the problems, like corruption, the causes and consequences, and why it is perpetuating, and how to terminate it from the from the experience of the culture. So how to build a positive corruption-free culture. So all those things are I think, very important tasks. Sir, thank you. Thank you for your valuable time, sir, valuable insights.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So maybe we can take another episode. We will take important questions, few questions, but that will be the final session, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable time, sir. Wonderful. I'm grateful to your contribution to this knowledge, and the people who watch these videos will be inspired